Hi, in this video we're going to talk about basic probability. This fits into this is the first of several videos in the general probability module for Exam P. Let's get into the basic probability stuff by looking at a simple example. I got a survey of 2,000 farmers in the Southeast that reveals the following information. 351 are from the state of Alabama, 1,205 grew beans, and 234 were from Alabama and grew beans. And I might ask the question, well, how many were from Alabama but did not grow beans? Now, you really don't need any special tools to do this. I mean, we can just kind of logically think through the process here, and think logically through the answer. I've got 234 that were from Alabama and grew beans, and I'm told 351 total were from Alabama. So the difference, or 117, must be those who were from Alabama but did not grow beans. So there's nothing special that I did here to get that answer. But I want to go back to the problem and introduce what are called Venn diagrams, and you may have seen them before. I think they're pretty easy to work with, and they're very useful tools. And I do almost all of the problems in the general probability module. I do almost all of the problems using Venn diagrams. So I want to let's talk a little bit more about Venn diagrams. First of all, cap S we generally represents the sample space, and that's the set of all possible outcomes from the survey or an experiment. We schematically represent that with a Venn diagram by just putting a rectangle. And then we have we would have an event. Cap A may be the event that the surveyed farmer was from Alabama, for instance. The events are subsets of the sample space. So in this case, I would represent Cap A, my Venn diagram, with a circle that's a subset of the rectangle there. And then I'll have another event in this problem. I have an event Cap B is the event that the surveyed farmer grew beans, and so I'll have intersecting circles here. I know they're intersecting because I have farmers who were from Alabama and also grew beans, so that's an intersecting. They're part of the intersection of the circles of A and B. N of capital S, N of S is going to represent the number of outcomes in the sample space, and I'm going to abbreviate that often by just putting an N there. So in this case, there were 2,000 farmers, so I put N equals 2,000. N of A would be the number of outcomes for event A, so I would represent that with putting the circle in for A, and then inside the circle putting a 351 to represent there were 351 outcomes for event A. Now notice outside of A then, there would be 2,000 minus the 351, or 1,649 farmers outside of event A. And then we could talk about, this is a basic probability fact, this is the basics of probability, that the probability of an event is always the number of outcomes of the event divided by the number of outcomes in the sample or in the survey. And so in this case, the probability of Cap A would be 351 over 2,000, or 17.55%. I could have done the same thing for event B and say, well, there are 1,205 possible outcomes for event B. That's going to leave me 795 outside of B. So if I wanted the probability of Cap B, I'd have the number of outcomes in B, which is 1,205, divided by the total of all the outcomes, which is 2,000, and that's a 60.25%. Okay, but now in this problem, I've got both Alabama farmers and bean farmers, and so I've got both of these. And so now to fill in the values in the regions of the Venn diagram, what we're going to do is start from the innermost intersection, and there's only one intersection of Cap A and B here, but we start there and then work our way outside. So starting on the inside, I know that there are 234 farmers that were from Alabama and grew beans, so they would I would put 234 in the intersection of A and B. I would write that as a number of outcomes of A and B, and using set notation, the word and is synonymous with an intersection, so I'll write the number of outcomes of A intersect B. And from there, I can actually talk about, well, what is the probability of A intersect B? Well, it's the number of outcomes of A intersect B divided by the number of outcomes of the sample. That's just the basic probability fact for any event. The probability of the event is the number of outcomes of the event divided by the number of outcomes in the sample. And so in this case, the probability of A intersect B would be the ratio in the numerator have the number of outcomes of A intersect B, that's 234. In the denominator, I have the 2,000, so that's 11.7%. So now I'm going to work my way outside of the, I've got the 234. You start in the middle. Let's work our way out. I was told that there were 351 farmers from the state of Alabama, but you've already accounted for 234 of them that I have highlighted there. So then the rest of them, the 351 minus the 234, or 117, would go in event in set A, but outside of set B. Likewise, I've got 1,205 bean growers, but I've already accounted for 234 of them, and so the rest of them, the 971 there, would be bean growers, but outside of, in set B, but outside of set A. And then be careful here, you always have to account for everybody. So there were 2,000 farmers, but if you add up the 117, the 234, and the 971, you don't get 2,000. And so that difference there of 678 are farmers that are not in set A. That's the number of outcomes not in A and not in B also. And then I might ask a question like, well, what's the proportion of those surveyed who were from Alabama or grew beans? Or maybe something like determine the probability that a randomly selected farmer from the survey was from Alabama or grew beans. Those are the exact same questions. So I put them there just to illustrate to you that they have different ways of asking the same question. Determine the proportion of something, or determine the probability that something. If they're describing the same something, then they're asking the same question. So in this case, we're looking for the probability of A or B. Now, before I move on, let me make a comment about this or statement here. If you were to go to a restaurant and you're sitting at the restaurant deciding what to order, and the waiter comes up and says, well, all we have left is chicken or fish. So would you like chicken or fish? That is verbally, when we're in talking to people, our ors are usually exclusive ors. Exclusive meaning you're getting. You're going to get chicken or you're going to get fish. You're not going to get both. You're going to get one or the other. You're excluding the fact that you're going to get both. But in set theory and what we do here, the or is an inclusive or. So if you're talking about a farmer from Alabama or a farmer that grew beans, if you have an Alabama bean farmer, then that satisfies that event, that the event that you have a farmer who is from Alabama or grows beans. So it's an inclusive or. Bean farmers from Alabama, those that are in the intersection of A and B would account, you do have to account for those if you're counting the number of outcomes in A or B. Okay, so just be careful with that. It's not the same as a verbal in the English language of U.S. The or is exclusive. Most of the times it's an exclusive or. This is an inclusive or. Okay, so now what about the probability of A or B? Well, it's the number of outcomes in A or B divided by the number of outcomes in the sample. That's it every time. Now the or statement. With using set theory notation, the or, when you see an or, it's a union. So we would write this as the probability of A union B. And sometimes I'll say A union B, sometimes I'll say A or B. Those are used synonymously. Okay, and so the probability of A union B would be the number of outcomes in A union B divided by the number of outcomes in the sample. And if you look at the number of outcomes of A union B, then I'm talking about the 117 plus the 234 plus the 971, and then I'm dividing that by 2,000. I get 1322 over 2,000, or 66.1%. I want to focus a little bit more on this number of outcomes of A union B, and I want to compare that to the number of outcomes in A plus the number of outcomes in B. So the number of outcomes in A, well, that's the 351 farmers from Alabama, and the number of outcomes in B is the 1,205 bean growers. And so if you do the arithmetic, you can see, well, of course, they're not equal to each other. So let's try to account for the difference. So let's look at the 351 first, that I have highlighted in red. The 351 are the Alabama farmers. So if I look at my Venn diagram, that's going to be the 117 plus the 234 there. And likewise, if I look at and so what I'll do is let me replace that 351 in the bottom equation with that 117 plus 234. Now let's look at the 1,205. Well, the 1,205 are those who grew beans. So that's going to, in the Venn diagram, that's going to be the 234 plus the 971. So let me replace that 1,205 with the 234 plus the 971. And then I recognize, I can see what the difference is now between these two expressions. The number of outcomes in A union B would be the number of outcomes in A plus the number of outcomes in B. I said that as I've got it written, the number of outcomes in A plus the number of outcomes B would be the number of outcomes in A union B plus the other 234. But notice the 234 was the number of outcomes in A intersect B. And so my point is that when you're counting the number of outcomes of A and you add to that the number of outcomes in B, you're double counting the number of outcomes in A. You're counting twice the number of outcomes in A intersect B. And so we get this equation, and now I'm going to just solve this equation for the number of outcomes in A union B, but just by subtracting over the number of outcomes in A intersect B and rewriting it. And I want to do this because now if I divide every term by the number of outcomes in the sample, I get probabilities. And so my probability equation here would be the probability of A union B would be the probability of A plus the probability of B minus the probability of A intersect B. That's a formula that is always going to be true. Okay, and so let's go back. I want to talk about this example another way. Sometimes if you look at the statement right now, the first sentence, they told you how many farmers were in the survey and then told you how many were from that fit each category. But now another way that information might be given to you is by not telling you the number that you're starting with and just giving you percentages of people in the different categories. And when that happens, what I do is I just make up my own number for the size of the sample. I just assume that the sample is a certain size, maybe 100. So if I assume the sample is 100, then I can say, well, then 17.55% were from the state of Alabama. That means the number of outcomes of A would be 17.55. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Alabama, but I doubt that you'll find 17.55 farmers from Alabama. So if you have a problem with that, and I'll come back to that in just a second, but if you have a problem with that, then what you can do is just change the size of change your initial starting value. That was just an arbitrary value anyway. So instead of starting with 100 farmers in a survey, well, let's say that we assume there were 10,000 farmers in the survey. That would get me a whole number of Alabama farmers of 1,755. Okay, so if you have a problem with the 17.55 farmers from the non-integer numbers, then you can just increase the size of your the starting size of that what you're assuming the sample starts with. Okay, and then if we look at the number of bean growers, we would take 60.25% of the 10,000, so it'd be 6,025 bean growers, and then we'd also have that there were 1,170 that were in A intersect B. And so my Venn diagram, when you fill out the Venn diagram, start in the middle, start in the innermost intersection, and so I got 1,170 that I'm starting with, and then I've got 1,755 farmers were from Alabama, but I've accounted for 1,170, so that leaves 585. Likewise, there were 6,025 bean growers, but you've accounted for the 1,170 that were in the intersection, so that leaves 4,855. And if you add up all of those, you're not going to get 10,000. You're going to need another 3,390 outside of set A and B to get to the 10,000 total. And now I can answer questions like, well, what's the probability of A union B? Well, that would be the number of elements in A plus the number of elements in B. The number of elements in A union B divided by the number of elements in the sample. And so I got the 585 plus the 1170 plus the 4855 divided by 10,000, and I get the 66.1%. Notice I want to make an observation here that if I take the probability of cap A plus the probability of cap B and I subtract the cap probability of A intersect B, well, those are actually the numbers that were actually given to me. And I get the same 66.1%, which I knew I was going to get that anyway because we just talked about the formula here that always, that's the fact that's always true. Okay, so now let's look at one other comment, and that is that, I started with 10,000. Originally I said, well, what if we started with 100 and we had these decimal values? And so let me instead of the 10,000 that I have highlighted, let me change that to 100 and let's show you how that's going to flow through the rest of these numbers. If I started with 100, then the number of outcomes in event A would be 17.55, number of outcomes in event B 60.25, and so forth, and it just moves the decimal places. But look at the ratio. When I look at probabilities, it's not going to affect the outcome. I'm still going to get the 66.1%. So instead of having 6,610 divided by 10,000 as my ratio, I'm going to have 66.1 divided by 100 as the ratio. And so my point here is that if so what I do is I start with the end value of what I think is going to give me whole numbers, and then within the problem, if I end up getting decimal values, I just don't worry about it if I'm looking for a probability, because I know that it's not going to, the decimal values are going to cancel off, and I'm going to get the same result whether I have decimal values or integer values when I'm doing these probabilities. Okay, one last comment. Let's go back to the statement that if there was 10,000. One last comment is let's recognize I would not go back and redo the problem, but I'm trying to make a point here. I'm going to recognize that all of these numbers are divisible by 5. So if I divided everything by 5 here, the 10,000 by 5, divide everything by 5, I get this starting with 2,000. Surveyed farmers, and look, the numbers are exactly what we started with in the original example. And so my point here with this last few slides is to say, if you're given a problem where you're given percents, you make up a number that you're starting with in the survey. Make a number up. It doesn't matter what it is. To make the number up so that you get numbers of values, numbers of outcomes in each set, and then calculate the probabilities using those numbers. Don't worry about if you get decimal values and so forth. Okay, so this was kind of a long video. There was kind of an elementary video on Venn diagrams. We're going to look at more complicated Venn diagrams in the next video. So I'll see you then.